Good evening. I'm Clarice Tinsley. One of the fired Dallas officers was arrested tonight and charged with criminally negligent homicide for a man's death. A total of 7 employees were disciplined. 5 officers and a crime scene analyst were fired. 1 other officer suspended. First on Fox 4 News at 10, Richard Ray with the breaking news.
Clarice, the most stunning development, 2 officers fired, one of them in jail tonight on that charge of criminally negligent homicide in a case where police now say they ran over a man on a bicycle, then tried to cover it up. It happened back in April. 51-year-old Fred Bradford was on his bicycle when 2 patrol officers thought he'd been acting suspiciously. They gave chase, Officer Michael Puckett on foot, Officer Brian Burgess in the squad car. There was a collision. Bradford was seriously injured. The 2 officers claimed he'd run into the squad car. But after a series of investigation, the FBI was called in. Chief Brown now says a tape recording at the scene that night off Puckett's phone makes it clear the officer Burgess ran over Bradford on his bicycle.
It's 1% of the department that we have to terminate is a job that has to be done. And it's my job to do it. It's just my hopes that the public will understand that the 99% of the officers do exactly what we expect them to do, show high character.
June, Fox 4 talked with the family of Fred Bradford, who had no criminal history after he died from his injuries he sustained when struck by the police car. They said then that the officers were not telling the truth about what happened.
He told me that the police ran over him and backed over him.
And ran over him twice.
Twice and backed over him. He said we asked him why he didn't stop. He said because he was scared for his life.
My brother was laying in ICU with almost every bone in his body broken. His ribs were, all his ribs were broken. His lungs was punctured. His back was broken in 2 places.
Both Burgess and Puckett have been fired. Burgess being charged again with criminally negligent homicide. He's being booked into jail tonight. The grand jury also being presented with possible tampering with evidence charges. DPD put on their Twitter feed tonight that the FBI is also looking at possible civil rights violations against Burgess and Puckett. Moving on, 2 other officers have been fired. A 3rd resigned after DPD discovered that hundreds of domestic violence cases were simply being ignored. A random audit showed there might be a problem, and the problem turned out to be a huge one. 747 cases that other detectives had to piece together from piles and boxes to get charges filed before the statute of limitations ran out. This is one of the fired detectives from the Family Violence Unit, Senior Corporal Derman Johnson, seen here in a picture from Facebook. The 2nd fired officer is Senior Corporal Sean Wash. Chief Brown says a 3rd detective in the same case, Mickey East, has resigned.
One case was outside the state statute of limitations. There were 2006 cases that were beyond the statute of limitations. So there were some victims that didn't get justice. And there's no skirting around that fact. And what we tried to do here is hold these detectives accountable.
Chief Brown said the fired officer claimed their caseloads were too heavy, but in all the ignored cases in the Family Violence Unit, he says they were all traced back to those 3 detectives. And 1 more sworn officer was terminated for sexual assault. Officer Edward Antunes, seen here in a mugshot following his arrest in June by Mesquite police on that charge. He was assigned to the Southeast Patrol Division. Finally, a crime scene analyst was fired for failing to report that she had outstanding felony warrants, and 1 more officer was suspended for 30 days after displaying his gun and a badge during an off-duty disturbance at a restaurant in Fort Worth. Clarice, as Chief Brown said, not a good day for Dallas police.
No, not at all, but he did talk about the other 99%. Richard, thank you.